Shalom, I'm Rabbi Glaser. I live in Jerusalem, the Holy City, and I grew up in California, in Los Angeles, spent 23 years of my life searching the world. When I didn't find anything, I spent my time distracting myself with extreme sports, and I've spent the last 23 years of my life here in Jerusalem swimming in the wisdom of the Torah. Whenever we talk about the Torah, we always have to understand that Abraham changed the world completely. And so if any time Judaism's boring to you, it's probably not what Abraham came to change the world with, because he turned the world on its head. And that means that whenever you're hearing Torah, it's to turn the world on its head. And tonight we're going to talk about a certain aspect of where we'll see Abraham's original Torah turning the world upside down, and how it really is set up to turn the world upside down and to make that difference for the planet. When I was in university, I went to a university called UCSB. It's in California, in Santa Barbara. UCSB stands for You Can Study Buzzed. And in that university, I was going to the study hall for a change to actually study for a major exam the following morning. I had not, I don't think, even been to the class that entire semester, but I had to study for the following morning's exam, an all-nighter. In the study hall were two other people in there, and I think I asked a question of them, and the answer kind of mushroomed into this whole long conversation about life. What are we doing here? What's the point of life? One of those amazing meaning of life conversations that I think all of us crave. You know what I'm talking about when you have that. It comes once in a while. It might go all night. It usually does. You usually see the sunrise when you have such a conversation. And those conversations are the most meaningful, and they bring us to the essence of things and give context to everything else we do. And so we crave those conversations. In the morning, I woke, I didn't wake up. It was up. I was up. The sun was up. We were up. No one studied a word. We parted ways, but it was like we knew each other forever. And I called my mother down in Los Angeles and told her, about this conversation. And she says to me, those conversations are what life's all about. And I heard those words. They hit me so strong. And I felt so supported in this experience that life is about these conversations. That is what life's about. Which meant whatever I was studying in university is not what life's about. And I've done the right thing by spending the entire night talking about what life is all about. So I told my mother, I said, well, what about the exam? I didn't study. How am I going to pass this exam? She says, you're not taking that exam. You'll figure it out. You'll retake it another time. But that's what life's about. And so I craved these conversations. That was my freshman year, first year in university, and I craved those conversations. I searched for those conversations. And you can't force those kinds of conversations. They don't come like because you tried to have them, they have to come to you. Or at least that's what I believed. And so over the years, I had several more of those amazing conversations, and I became quite good at those conversations. In fact, dating someone depended on whether she could continue in that conversation. The second she said, can we talk about something else? Our relationship was officially over. And they never knew what happened. They'd be like, can we talk about something else? And I'd get this look on my face like, what did you say? I just thought maybe we could talk about something else than the meaning of life. And I would look at her and just say, it was nice knowing you. What? Anyway, but this is how it went for years. And by the way, I married the woman that could keep going in the conversation. That's exactly who I married. Eventually, I found a woman who does not end. She never wants to talk about anything but the conversation. We're going to fast forward to my senior year. Senior year is Gulf War. war protests going on. UCSB was the most volatile campus against the Gulf War, or the US involvement in the Gulf War. And it was a major time of it was like the 1960s revisited. In fact, it was at UCSB that the Bank of America was burned down during the Vietnam War. And this campus somehow has, even though it's not exactly the campus for this, it's a pretty shallow party environment, but for some reason when wars break out, it becomes like a hotbed. Everyone starts burning their couches in the street. Little did I know I'd be moving to a country that protests by burning trash cans. We would burn couches. In fact, there was a band called the Burning Couches in the university. Senior year of university, it's a full 1960s hippie scene with these all-night parties where, without going into great detail, let's just say any particular person's bloodstream could have turned on the entire Middle East. Okay? There were all-night parties. The living room was just a dance floor. And, they'd be playing all this crazy psychedelic music, or it might be just a safety dance over and over again. S, 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 A, 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 F, 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 F. Anyway, this is happening all night. And I went to a room, I wound up in one of the bigger bedrooms where I was just having this amazing conversation, in the corner of the room, talking to some hippie guy, and we're talking about the essence of life. And throughout the night, the room started filling with people who were having these amazing conversations. And what are these conversations? They're conversations that make connections. Connection, which has to do with an attribute called yesod, but it was connections, how this connects to that, and that connects to this, and meaning putting all of life together to understand the essence of things. And so here I am with this guy, we're blowing our minds having this conversation for hours and hours. Comes around 7 in the morning, you can still hear the pulsing music, and it was before the techno age, it's really old music. And there's pulsing music, this is 1990. And there's pulsing music going on inside the living room. But here this bedroom has filled up with people. Near the door of the bedroom, a girl says to her girlfriend, who she was having this powerful conversation with, she says, "Oh my gosh, I totally forgot. I have to go to Los Angeles for a bar mitzvah today." And the girl says to her, "You're Jewish?" And the girl says, "I hope you don't have a problem with that." And she says, No, I'm Jewish too. And she says, "Oh, how do you like that? We just talked all night and we're both Jewish. That's amazing." And some other girls heard that and said, "You guys are Jewish? We're Jewish." And some other guys in the room said, "You guys, we're Jewish?" And then they became like a team of Jews, blown away, with their minds blown that they're all Jewish. And they finally start tapping other people in the room. There are a lot of people in the room, started tapping other people in the room to ask them, "Are you Jewish by any chance?" And "Yeah, we're Jewish." And then they finally come to me. I got 100 of these. Okay, I had 100 of these coming off the back of my head. I'm talking to this long, blonde-haired hippie guy. And they come over to us, they're not Jewish. And they came over to us. We were sitting on the edge of a little futon bed on the floor. And they come over to us, and "We just have a question for you guys." And I'm like, "What is it?" And they said, "We just want to know, are you guys Jewish?" I said, "I'm Jewish." The other guy says, "I'm Jewish too." And everyone just went, "Whoa!" It was an entire room of Jewish people having this conversation all night. But then the big question, who are those people dancing in the other room? We sent a posse out to go find out what was going on in the other room. And a couple of them went and started interviewing everyone dancing on the dance floor, and guess what? There was not a single Jew at the entire party dancing in the living room, not one. This party unconsciously segregated itself into a room full of people blowing their minds on the conversation and a living room full of dancing Gentiles. It segregated itself. And this went on. That was the beginning of the year, because the Gulf War broke out. I remember I was on a ship on the Adriatic Sea. I was playing internationally at concerts on the streets. I was on the Adriatic Sea on the ship deck, which is all I could afford, sleeping on the ship deck, when I got the New York Times saying the Gulf War had broken out. This is the beginning of the year. And the rest of the year, the same exact thing happened at every party. A week after graduation, I head to Jerusalem. I get to Jerusalem, I'm in yeshiva. In that yeshiva, I am discovering for the first time what Judaism is all about. And sometimes, I got to tell the truth, it was too much at times. Sometimes it was so intense that I had to take a break, and I would go out to the Jewish Quarter Square. And I would sit in the square and just kind of hang out with people. I had my guitar out. But guess what happened? The conversation always morphed back to the conversation, back to the meaning of life. And we started discussing whatever it was we were learning in the yeshiva. So I said, I got to get out of the old city. So I head to town, and I order a nice big half-liter beer. And I'm drinking my beer with a couple of guys. We're hanging out. And guess what? The conversation morphs back to the meaning of life. And everything we had studied that day in yeshiva, and all these guys were from different yeshiva, and they had all been studying it as well. Next day, I'm in the yeshiva, studying with my partner, who happened to be a married guy, and he said that he learns in something called kolo. I said, what's kolo? He says, well, I learn with all you guys. I'm in yeshiva like all you guys. The only difference is I get a paycheck at the end of every month, a stipend for learning the Torah. And my jaw drops, and I'm like, you're getting paid to do this? He said, well, it's not called pay, but it's a compensation to be studying Torah. And I looked around, I realized I'm in a multi-million-dollar building that no one's gonna have any more survival reproduction over this building, meaning this is money invested that's not gonna feed the animal instincts at all. This is purely soul. And it's a building that was set up for this conversation. And this guy's even getting paid to have the conversation. Meaning people are paying him not to go make regular money. Okay, he's living very, very, a stark existence, but he's being paid to not go work in order that he has the conversation, which means there are wealthy people out there who know what the conversation is, and they're paying for it. They're putting their money where their mouth is in the conversation. And then I finally looked around at this whole existence in this holy city of Jerusalem, and I realized we are the nation of the conversation. We're the nation of the conversation. That is our job. Our job is to have the conversation of what is life all about. Now, that's not unique to Judaism to ask the question, what's life all about? In fact, I've met many people who are not Jewish who spent their lives, or at least a part of their lives, discovering that. But it is what our nation is about. That is our job on earth. We were created for it. And when you think about it, the creation has been around for a long time. And people have been on the planet for a long time. And human beings have generally been distracted by the basic needs of life, which are generally involved in survival and reproduction. You gotta survive, and you gotta somehow get married, and you gotta have kids, and you gotta support them, which is back to survival. But these things are shared by the plant and animal kingdom. The entire plant and animal kingdom are living that way. God created human beings to also have to survive and also have to reproduce. But that shouldn't be what life's about. Life is about what we're doing here. Survival and reproduction is only to sustain the actual human being and to sustain the human race so that we can live the meaning of life. Have you ever wondered, it's a little curious, how is it that the Torah and the Jewish people only came on the scene after 2,448 years, 2.5 millennia after Adam? What was going on for the first 2.5 millennia? And the answer was God gave the planet a chance to figure it out. To figure it out. Everyone's got brains, everyone's got mouths. Have the conversations and figure out what life's about. But it didn't work. It didn't go. And it's not because God made a mistake. I mean, if you want to say God made a mistake, it was only that he gave us choice. But anyone want to give up their choice? People chose out. People chose survival and reproduction. People chose the animal instincts over the godly instincts, the higher self that finds out what we're doing here. And so God gave the Torah to one pilot nation, few in number, that would be what our life's about. That there would be one nation of the conversation. There would be one nation that would contribute to the planet the value of having the conversation about what life's about. And also all the things that the Jewish people have lent to the world as the findings in the conversation. For example, the value of human life itself. For example, the importance of the search. For example, the recognition that there is a creator and that we didn't just appear out of nothing. These are all values that the conversation has brought to light. And Abraham was the one. Abraham was the one. And you'll notice, if you look at Abraham's life, he had two things going on. On the one hand, he was super expansive and traveled the world, teaching civilization about meaning, having that conversation. And two, bringing them into his world, into his open tent, to engage with people, to give to them, to get them to a sense of gratitude, so that they would perhaps recognize that Abraham is not the source of this meal. He himself is a guest in his own home, as God is the host of the meal. Abraham was the progenitor of the conversation, and we are the descendants of that inheritance. We have received this. And it is not unique to those who learn the Torah, but it's inside of all of us. Honor that part of you. Whether you're a Jew or a Gentile, honor that part of you that wants to know what we're doing here, and allow that to give the context for your entire existence here. So then you know what you're working for. You know what you're living for, because that's the most important thing in life. And I would even argue and could prove to you that it's more important than life itself. And for centuries and generations and millennia, Jews have sacrificed life to carry on the conversation. We are the nation of the conversation.